Welcome to Bitter Reality Brewing. I'm going to give you the top 10 reasons why you may enjoy home brewing. During this video, if you find this entertaining, enjoyable, or simply a fellow home brewer and want to show some appreciation, please feel free to hit the like button or, go crazy, subscribe. Also, if you have any questions, suggestions, or other info you would like to know or share, please comment below. I'll do my best to reply as timely as possible. As you can see, you're in my little brew area. All kinds of stuff from greens to gadgets, tools. Didn't start this way. Definitely didn't have a Keyser over 5 years ago. Grown quite a bit, probably to the level of insanity sometimes, according to my wife. But over 5 years ago, I started this amazing journey of brewing beer, simply to see if I could. I started with a 1 gallon pale ale homebrew kit from an online supply house. On my second batch, I brewed a Hefeweizen beer in a 2 gallon batch. And this is what got me hooked. I put 1 gallon, because we were living in an apartment, in the pantry. 1 gallon in our closet. Our closet was always a little cooler. I just hit it with a little point and shoot temperature probe. And basically, as they fermented, the closet was about 3 or 4 degrees cooler compared to the pantry and the kitchen. Kitchen was a little closer to the entryway, a little warmer, of course. To my surprise, after bottling the 2 exact same brews, which, mind you, were all grain, 100%, same Hefeweizen yeast, same water, same everything, and I just use basic, whatever you call, spring water. There was about 3 to 4 degrees of separation on this Hefeweizen. The one that was warmer had a lot of banana aroma. It wasn't quite as smooth, but the one that was cooler, and I like banana, but the one that was cooler didn't have much of an aroma. It was kind of subdued, but was extremely smooth, had lots of clove, and a bit more of a crisp taste to it. Needless to say, the mad scientist in me was hooked, as I love experimenting. From food to anything I can imagine, I like to experiment. It's just fun. And getting to eat or drink whatever you're experimenting with just makes it all that much more enjoyable, in my book. Why should you brew beer when you can just, say, run down to your local shop and buy some? I really can't answer that for you, but I can give you my short list of why I brew beer. First, number one reason, I find brewing beer to be very relaxing as a hobby. We all have lots of stress in our lives, and shortly after I started brewing, I had some serious, or very serious health issues that, well, stress directly impacted, as I think it impacts most people's health. When I'm brewing beer, all I do is focus on creating the best beer I can possibly create. I really don't think about anything else, which helps reduce my stress massively. Don't get me wrong, brewing beer can and has its stress. You can definitely have your own stress when you come to brewing beer. You have things like boilovers because you decided to go do something else and not look where you're supposed to be looking. You weren't paying attention. You have, prepping the day before, making sure you have your water if you're doing water, making sure you have your salts and stuff that you're putting in the water, making sure you have your grains, your hops, your yeast. And of course, the morning of and throughout the day, you have cleanup. Cleanup, it requires tons of cleaning and sterilization of both the equipment before and after brewing. My number 2 reason would be personal reward. Whether you are brewing something that will be ready to drink within a few weeks, which is never really my goal, even though it would be nice. I've never found anything to taste that great within a few weeks. Or even a few years. Literally, some people do that. A year is as far as I would even imagine. When you finally get to try it, that is only part of the reward. Sometimes you miss your mark. Sometimes some things just turn out even better than expected. The extra reward is when you get to share those good or even great brews with friends. Many will thank you. That's a fact. But hey, it's free beer. But there are always a few in the group that will give you really good and even useful feedback, as everyone's palate's a little different. Something that you may not think is that good of a brew might just be one of their favorite brews of all time. I've been shocked. A lot of times I'll brew something and go, hey, it's good, but it's got this little funk to it, or it's this, or it wasn't the way I intended, because I already have definition of that beer and what it should taste like and how it should smell before it even finishes, because that's what I'm going for. But maybe that isn't what they care about. It's just trying the beer and going, oh my God, that's great. The other thing is you're going to introduce people to new styles or simply take them into a different style of your own. And number 2 leads me into number 3 reason. Sharing with friends and family, and of course, many new friends, which can be very rewarding. Some friends and family may help you to brew your new beer, which is awesome when that happens, but I promise you that almost all of them will help you drink it. If you want new friends, give them free beer. It's a very easy way to gain friends. Trust me on that one. Also, you can enjoy a local homebrew club or join a local brew club. When you join a brew club, suddenly you have a ton of friends who all have at least one thing in common. They all enjoy brewing beer. And you'll find other things that you have in common, not just that you live probably near each other or down the road or around the corner, but you can compare notes and you're all learning at the same time. Some people have a little more knowledge, some have a little less. The longer you're in that beer club, the more knowledge you'll gain and the more understanding of things and learn. Number 4, create what you want to drink. Yes, the only real limit is your imagination. You've heard that from other things. Ever thought of a cool beer you'd love to try, but no one makes it? Or maybe they used to, it's not available anymore, or more for some reason, just simply gone. You can make your own version. First, I highly recommend you brew with purchased beer kits in the very beginning, kind of like learning to crawl before you run. Plus, even when you go to the point of creating your own home brew, which I do this even with food, when I want to make something, I go and look at comparable recipes and figure out what I like and don't like and take and pull and give and create my own creation. It's a good idea to search the internet for a recipe that is something like what you're trying to create, so you can see what others may have done differently and why before you actually brew your own version. There are some very experienced brewers out there. Keep everything as an opinion because, I take it with a grain of salt. Some people really know what they're talking about. Some people have no clue, but that's just the way they're going to do it. No matter what style you prefer, from light lagers, saisons, hoppy IPAs, stouts to Belgians, the possibilities are endless. And those are just limitations on the styles. You can always go outside of those. It's for you. Just a small example of some that I've done just in the short time I've been brewing beer. Raspberry ginger saison, which is always a huge hit with both men and women. Spicy Belgian rye IPA using just hops to get all the spiciness out of the beer. Smoked black cherry porter. That one was pretty good. A tres leche cream ale, just like the tres leche dessert, but a cream ale, using a lot of lactose in there and a basic cream ale. Pineapple rye saison, a little sweet, little spice. White cranberry ginger IPA. Chocolate rye Dunkelweizen, which we did a video about that recently. It's the second time I've done it. Irish red IPA. I love IPAs, especially red. I like Irish red, so hey, it goes together well. Lemon pepper wit, German chocolate stout. Double chocolate oatmeal stout. S'mores porter. Black rye IPA. But you get the idea. I love being creative, but plus rye and chocolate are some of my favorite ingredients to put in beer. I love black IPAs, but sadly, they are very rare, if not impossible to find locally. So I brew my own, almost always. I always have at least one on tap, which I currently have one on tap. And I've got 2 more that I want to brew, but I'm not going to brew it until that one's gone. Let's go on to number 5. Competition. If you are one of those people who lives for competition, brewing competitively might be for you. There are local, regional, and even national beer brewing competitions every year. Sam Adams has brewing competitions. I haven't seen one lately, but I know they've done it several years in a row. First step would be to join your local beer club and, of course, honing your skills at brewing the best beer possible in the style of beer you're going for or the beer that you're looking to brew and put it into that style that you feel it might fit. Plus, keep in mind, some competitions end with a local or even national brewery brewing your own beer on a much, much larger scale for hundreds or even thousands of people to enjoy. Most of them will have you kind of give away everything, or you're not allowed to get credit for it. You don't get money, but it's still a nice bragging rights, and it's a nice stepping stone if you're looking to do it as a profession. 6, learning about beer and beer appreciation, as you will very quickly take a deep dive into beer and beer history, learning more about beer than you may have ever wanted to imagine or may never have imagined. But your appreciation for beer will grow considerably, and many of your friends and even strangers will begin to turn to you for your knowledge, especially when you're out either shopping for beer or locally at the pub. My wife always jokes because literally I will talk to anybody, and I meet people from around the world that are like, oh my God, I'm from Germany. I'm shocked they have this German beer. Or I'll be like, yeah, I'm brewing this German beer, or I'm doing this, or it's on my tap. And they're like, no way, that's awesome. Number 7, this is the part that got me hooked. Experimentation, AKA the mad scientist, part of which is one of my favorite parts. It goes back to number 4 with being creative. Creativity of creating what you want. But sometimes you might not really know what you want, or simply just want to try something new. When it comes to brewing beer, even tiny things from temperature, time, quality of ingredients, or when the crop was grown last year, things change. You would be shocked. A hop one year is only producing certain types of alpha acids, which give you bitter, while the next year it's much lower or much higher. There are a million little tiny things that impact the final product. Water. You can use any type of water, but it will impact your beer in a good or bad way. And once you get good at what you're doing, you can learn water chemistry. Water chemistry is awesome. I just started after 5 years doing it, just about a little over a year and a half, maybe 2 years now. And I'm getting better at it. But you can create the exact type of water you want in your beer. It affects your bitterness or the sweetness or the malts. It helps with everything. Going on to malts. Malts can add flavor such as caramel, biscuit, honey, cookie, coffee, chocolate. The list is almost endless. Think grainy and you're pretty much on the right track. Plus it's based on the amounts, the temperatures of the malts. This impacts the flavor, the sweetness, the dryness, and of course the alcohol that your beer is capable of producing in the final product. There are other things, that variations in there, but it's still, that impacts it massively. Then there are the hops. For most beers, which can reduce the perceived sweetness, it's a balancing act. It can add bitterness, floral, herbal, citrus, tropical, pine, cedar, resin, many other flavors. I've had beers that tasted like they had grapefruit in it and no grapefruit. I've had spicy beers just from the hops. Not to forget about your yeast, which I personally feel has the biggest impact on your finished product. Is the right yeast at the right temperature can make a huge difference in the finished product. It's shocking how much even just a variation of yeast or a combination of yeast can really change the beer. There are Belgian yeasts that will give you tons of fruit esters and spicy flavors, especially usually at warmer temperatures. German yeasts that will give the malts kind of the center of attention and bring out different types of esters that may actually make the malt taste and smell the best. American strains, there's tons of them that will literally let the hops stand out, or the hops and malt come right through and shine and even clarify the beer. There are tons of yeast to choose from. There are new ones being discovered almost every day. Lastly, and this is one of the biggest one, no matter what you're doing, whether it's the malts or the temperatures or the yeast, is that temperature and time. Yes, temperature and time. Start in the very beginning when you're doing your mash, known as soaking the malts per se, at certain temperatures, which helps to pull starches, sugars, and even enzymes. At lower temperatures, you're pulling out different types of enzymes that at higher temperatures you won't get, or you'll get different ones. These help break down some of the starches into sugar or during the fermentation. The fermentation temperature and time can also make huge impacts. Two identical beers can taste completely different just because they were fermented at different times and temperatures. Shockingly, there are many home brewers that have brewed batches that didn't taste all that great when they were fresh, or what they call young. But as they allow the beer to age, many beers, especially those with high ABV or high alcohol, begin to kind of mellow and develop very nice characteristics and flavors, and they kind of smooth out a little bit. And maybe those weren't present in the very beginning, or at least not noticeable, especially when you get that high alcohol smell, almost like it's a hot beer. But when they were finished and they were bottled and kegged and allowed to age, they became some of the favorite beers that some of those brewers have made. This is one of my favorite things, is experimenting. I've done it on several occasions where I've literally brewed a single type of beer, then split something like a 6-gallon batch into 1-gallon batches. So I'll have 6 1-gallon batches, and then I'll begin boiling them, and I'll add different hops to each one so that I'm breaking up those flavors and making them very different. Or I've taken a 6-gallon batch, put the same hops and everything, broke it down to 1-gallon batches, and added 6 different yeasts. It allows me to compare the yeasts and see which yeasts I like better and which hops I like better. For a long time, I used to do 6-gallon batches, and I would do the main 5-gallon batch, and then I would pitch a different yeast in the 1 gallon, just so I could compare and see, hey, you know, what would it taste it like if I did a Saison instead of an IPA type yeast? Sadly, once in a while, you really wish you pitched that 1-gallon yeast into that 5-gallon batch. I had one where the 5-gallon was okay, but that 1 gallon was amazing. It was a Melbourne yeast that I'd gotten from White Labs. So now I don't do the California, I do the Melbourne, and I stick the California on the back burner. Let's go into number 8, science and math. For the OCD, don't worry, you don't have to be a mathematician. There are so many calculators, tons of calculators out on the web that will help you with ABV, gravities, and all those other great things. But I will warn you, they're not all created equal. You can type in the same information in some of these calculators and they will give you very different answers. It's very frustrating. I use Beersmith and I use a few other calculators out there, and I compare them to Beersmith as my kind of my grounding rod. Beer brewing can be as easy as simply cooking a nice meal to as complex as you want it to be, to the point that you're trying to literally count yeast cells or measure things to 1,000th of a gram. Seriously, it can be that crazy. I do like to measure my salts down to about 100th of a gram, because it's such a tiny amount of salt and such a massive amount of water. Number 9, kind of joking aside, zombie apocalypse, or I guess the coronavirus, which you will instantly become an essential friend to everyone, from brewing alcohol to trading for essential supplies. But I'm going to hope that it doesn't get that bad, or that it never will. But still, kind of joking aside, let's go to the last one. Number 10. Save money. Yes. If this is what you have to tell your spouse so you can get into the hobby, go for it. Honestly, this is possible. I used to actually track my total beer brewing costs versus the actual bottles of beer I had produced that were drinkable was the key, which most of them were actually. You can easily produce a nice beer for well under 50 cents a bottle. You can technically get it down to about 32 cents a bottle, but 50 cents a bottle for something decent. I'm not in the hobby for making cheap, repetitive, low-cost beer. Most people like myself who think they can make an expensive custom beer quickly decide that's not what they want to do. They want more out of beer. They want more out of the hobby. And they brew and they start brewing things, and they're constantly looking for better equipment, more gadgets, new recipes to brew, tweaking the recipes that they like, or maybe they liked them but they wanted them to be better, or they wanted to change something about it, or they just wanted to change it up just for fun. I will warn you, it can easily go crazy. In this hobby, you can get to the point of suddenly looking like you're a small nano brewery or even a full-blown microbrewery if you aren't careful. So take it with a grain of salt on that one. I'd like to throw this one out there while we're doing this. Like I said, don't forget, if you found this entertaining, hit the like. If you want to go crazy, hit the subscribe. If you learned something new, always appreciative. Comments, we'll try our best. But if you have something, it's got to be family friendly, shirt, other clothing item that is beer, wine, or mead related, I'll wear it during one of our videos. Or wall signage related to beer, wine, mead, we'll put it up. I keep it in one of the videos, maybe multiple videos. You'd be shocked. I don't have as many shirts as you may think. I'll make sure it ends up in the background of one of the videos. It does still have to be family friendly. I don't want anything profane or something like that. And lastly, if you have something you would like us to review as a brewing gadget, device, equipment, or even simply a home brew you made and you want someone's opinion, we'll be glad to give you an honest review and share it with everyone, including yourself, of course. Thank you again, and I appreciate any views, likes, sharing the information with friends, letting them know we're out here, and many more videos to come. Thank you again for joining us at Bitter Reality Brewing.